Welcome back to the Star Trek Critic, where each episode is graded like a school project, starting with 100 points and 1 point taken away for each error, such as plot holes, continuity errors, set design, and concepts that don't stand up to the test of time, and anything else I can think of. Today's episode is The Deadly Years. Kirk gets old incredibly fast, but Chekhov doesn't because he had the shit scared out of him. So, there are going to be a lot of points taken away today. According to the stardate, this episode takes place a week after Who Mourns for Adonis and a few weeks before Friday's Child. The first point is lost since the captain and first officer beam down together. One day Sulu is going to steal the Enterprise. Just wait and see. The next point is lost since Kirk usually does a video chat. He should have seen the rapid aging. Why isn't Chekhov turning on a flashlight? And if you notice, he's only in here for a few seconds. Ironically, in this episode, the sight of the dead man leads to the chain of events that saves them all. McCoy tells them how he died, but all of the colonists are in their 20s and 30s. Something's wrong. And how did this shock not scare enough adrenaline into the others? The next point is lost for everyone being back up to the ship. They could be contagious and not know it. They should have sent down a shuttlecraft with medical supplies. Commodore Stalker is just being an ass right now. Kirk invited him into the briefing since this planet will be in his district. This will be a great time for him to play the hero in the field before he gets to the starbase. But he just wants to go to the bar base and get drunk. And since there's no explanation of why Dr. Wallace is on the ship, besides being an old flame of Kirk's, minus 1 point. Did you notice women say this a lot to Kirk? McCoy has found nothing, Spock has found nothing, Stalker blames the Romulans. And Dr. Wallace is pissed that all Kirk did when her husband died was to send her a stargram. The next point is lost since they know a comet went by the planet, but are very sluggish in going after it for more information. There had to be something left in the atmosphere since it's affecting the crew. The next point is lost since they never contact Starbase 10. It's nearby, they might know something about the comet. Of course, the first time Kirk gives the same order twice is not that big of a deal. He's probably done that several times before he leaves the bridge. Is that a giant lizard on his wall? And is that a skull on the right? The next point is lost since they still haven't cleaned that mark on the monitor. Kirk never did make it in engineering. If you want to get technical, you cannot die of old age, but McCoy is getting older and grouchier by the minute, so he can get away with saying it. This is a scene where you learn that they are also aging rapidly, but it is impossible for hair to magically turn gray that quick, so minus 1 point. The next point is lost here since the captain's log is talking down to the audience. For some reason, they always think we forgot what happened before the commercials. The old country doctor blames evil spirits. The worst part about it is they will become mental vegetables and die within a week. No one knows why Chekhov isn't effective. But they should be able to find something in their own blood like a virus or radiation causing the damage. Those aging skin cells will have something in them, but since they can't find it, minus 1 point. One thing we get to see in this episode is the Spock-McCoy bickering Golden Boys style. Lieutenant Galway really got hit hard by the radiation. And she's right about that. They only did it for the script. How rude. Chekhov performs the Picard maneuver. Now they're going to secretly meet in the hallway where everyone can hear them. Wait, does that mean she likes girls too?
Yes!
So I can't take a point for these boring love talks, but they are still boring. Mainly her previous husband was several years older than her, and now she is making her move on an old Kirk. She is a gold digger. She looks pissed. This is one of the rare times you see Chekhov and Sulu together at the helm. Usually it's one or the other. As you can see, Sulu is strangely in good spirits. That's because he knows he's next in line for the captain's chair if Kirk, McCoy, Spock, and Scotty don't survive. This is why the captain and first officer should never beam down together. We saw Sulu in the Mirror Universe. He's always plotting something. Commodore Stalker does have legitimate concerns now about the crew, since Kirk is just stumbling around. And then Kirk lets out a really big fart. Captain Kirk is sleeping on the job. Spock says there was radiation from the comet's tail, but they had to go to the extreme lower settings to find it. And the comet was gone when they got to the planet, so they should have found something in the planet's atmosphere since they were affected as well, but they didn't. Then Kirk wanders around the bridge some more. I have a question for the doctor too. Just what is that thing on the table? Spock loses a point here. If he raised the temperature in his room to 125, That has to be Fahrenheit, not Celsius. And why is he asking McCoy for advice on a cold ship? He could just put on a jacket. And what is that thing in the back? Here comes another conversation with the Commodore, and this is where I will take another point, since Starfleet definitely has a better chain of command structure for when something like this happens. Like when a virus gets on board the ship, Sulu is clearly next in command and should take over. This is a very rare comedic routine between Dr. McCoy and Chekhov, so I'm going to leave it in. And now we mourn the death of a female officer in blue. And who are the people in the back? And this competency hearing would never have been convened if they followed proper virus on the ship protocol. And now Sulu is here off the bridge, leaving Chekhov in charge. This hearing should have been done by an outside source, like their legal department, not Spock, so -1 point. And everyone should be interviewed privately, so -1 point. Uhura is looking like she's going to say, "I know you're a fake blonde." And Spock loses another point since he guides Lieutenant Uhura into answering. You really shouldn't have someone aging 30 years a day to conduct a hearing. Kirk leaves so the Tribal Council can vote him out. It's highly unlikely a Commodore never had command of a starship, but since he is just a passenger on the ship, the regulations would have Sulu take command, so -1 point. Kirk stares into his favorite plate for advice. Now they get into some old man bickering. Excellent description of Commodore Stalker. Besides talking to Kirk about being old, Dr. Wallace really doesn't have a reason to be on the ship. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a photo with all 4 of them. Now they finally make the discovery. But isn't every ship lab doing research on this? They should have realized this a long time ago. Sulu loses the next point for flying right through the neutral zone. We all know Commodore Stalker knows nothing about flying a spaceship. So if Sulu flew around the neutral zone to Starbase 10 like he's supposed to, the Commodore would have never known and they would have never gotten into trouble with the Romulans. So this is all Sulu's fault. The next point is lost for using reused footage from Balance of Terror. Of course they get the serum right at the last minute. There are a lot of script planned Hail Marys in Star Trek. And Nurse Chapel's like, isn't that supposed to be my job? There is no way Kirk could have recovered quick enough to make it to the bridge that fast, so -1 more point. This is polite for, we're screwed. Kirk saves the day, but the Romulans are too smart to fall for the Corbomite maneuver, since they know that Starfleet doesn't do suicide missions, so -1 point. When does Spock get up to the bridge? He was in sickbay just a minute ago. They fly off to safety and to Starbase 10. They head off to Starbase 10. Commodore Stalker admits he's stupid, which boosts Kirk's ego quite a bit. The final scene has to have one final Spock-McCoy bickering. And Dr. Wallace comes to the bridge. Now that Kirk is healthy again, she wants to score. So who lived on Gamma Hydra 4? Alvin lived there, but we really don't know much more about him. Laura Wood played Mrs. Johnson and was also the old woman in Charlie X. Felix Locher was born in 1882 in Bern, Switzerland, making him the earliest born Star Trek actor. Before he took up acting in his 70s, he was an inventor and holds 100 copyrights and patents. Carolyn Nelson played Yeoman Atkins. Beverly Washburn has 80 screen credits to her name, including Gidget and Old Yeller, and I think she likes dogs. Yes! Charles Drake played Commodore Stalker, has 140 screen credits, including Harvey, and mostly he was in westerns. And Sarah Marshall played Dr. Wallace. She's born in the UK, has 80 screen credits, and several stage credits to her name. And The Deadly Years comes out with a score of 81%. And that's all for this episode. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists. Click that like button, the share button, and that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.